What's up, everybody? It's the Energy is Love and all that shit. You know, Energy is Love podcast. We'd like to thank all of our listeners for downloading and subscribing. You guys have gone out and done it. We appreciate it. Remember, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, every podcast app that you can think of. We're on there, so go search us out. Oh, yeah. Almost forgot. You can now listen to us on YouTube. Go subscribe to us in our YouTube channel. You can find all of our episodes there. We'll also be updating and releasing all the new episodes there as soon as they come out. If you haven't checked us out on Facebook, do so. It's the Energy is Love podcast. Tons of cool shit happening out there with the podcast, and I'm super thankful and excited. For example, we get to talk about Zen Float Company. What say you? ZenFloatCo.com. This is the first affordable in-home float tank. For those of you who don't know, a regular float tank is this typically a huge, ginormous pod-like looking thing. They fill them up with 300 gallons of water and somewhere around 1,200 pounds of salt, and you just sit back and float in the tank. But you typically can't find those unless you're at a high-end spa or float center, somewhere like that. You want to own your own? Now you get the opportunity to float at a fraction of the cost. Zen Float designed and created an in-home float tent that regular everyday people like you, like me, like everybody else out there can afford. The tents are solidly built from stainless steel and canvas. It's 4 feet wide, 8 feet long, which gives you more than enough room to float, but also makes it feasible so you can put it up in your house wherever you want. The water is continuously heated by their radiant heating system, which allows you to float as long as you want. It also has a dual UV pump cleaning system, so the water stays nice and clean and pure for each of your floats. They ship the tents all over the world, plus the tent looks like a super cool kick-ass pyramid, this wonderful flotation of wonder experience. The guys at Zen Float love floating, and now they've made it so more people like you and me can lay back and experience all the super cool shit that you do when you float. Make sure you go to our Facebook page, Energy is Love Podcast, and you can click on the link there to Zen Float. Because you're a listener of the podcast for the universe, when you go to Zen Float Co. and buy your tent, you get to enter the promo code at checkout, Energy is Love, and they'll give you a free pair of underwater headphones. Then you get to float with your headphones and listen to the podcast at the same time. Just saying. We also have to thank DeBryman for sponsoring small businesses for the past 10 years. The podcast wouldn't be what it is today without the support from DeBryman. Be sure to contact us at the podcast. It's energyislovepodcast@gmail.com. If you're interested in being on the show, we'd love to chat with you. Hope everybody enjoys whatever episode is coming up. I'm sure you will. It's going to be awesome, just like all the episodes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. The Energy is Love podcast. The podcast for the universe. Nama-fucking-stay. So, this is one of those episodes we like to call Float Stories, because I got to chat with this awesome guy named Shane Stott. Shane is the CEO and one of the co-founders of Zen Float Co. Zen Float Co. is based in Salt Lake City. So what happened was Shane started meditating back in the day as a way to cope and manage with all the anxiety attacks he was experiencing. That led him to design his first float tank, which he built in his home, which eventually led to the float tent and Zen Float Co. He wrote a book last year called The Float Tank Cure and has a second book coming out later this summer, which he chats about during the episode and everything. Shane's a super cool guy, and we had tons of cool shit to talk about during the show. Not just floating, but movies, mental health, Scientology, dreams, pyramids, meditation, all sorts of really cool shit and really in-depth stuff. So it's one of those episodes that has something for everyone. Like I said, Shane Stott, super cool, really interesting guy. Go out, find him online at shanestott.com, or you can go check out Zen Float at zenfloatco.com. Now you get to sit back, relax, enjoy the Energy is Love podcast with Shane Stott.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
What's up, everybody? It's the Energy is Love podcast. Super, super cool guest today. I'm way excited for it. It's one of the episodes we do in regards to floating, so it's a float story. And today I have one of the co-founders, correct?
Yeah.
One of the co-founders of Zen Float Company. It's Shane Stott.
Hey, what's up, man?
So Shane, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So Shane Stott, co-founder of Zen Float Co. I got into floating through a long story of anxiety and panic, but I was the guy who built isolationtankplans.com, and I was building a tank in my basement, helping other people build tanks, and that's where I ran into my partner, and that's how I wound up here.
So that's like the early stages. What was it again?
Yeah, it's still up, isolationtankplans.com. Sadly, I do not monitor it, and sometimes people reach out, and I'm like, sorry, it's dead. It doesn't even exist hardly.
Was it just a website where people could go on and figure out how to build a float tank at home?
Yeah, because when I first started floating, it's probably been 6 years now, there wasn't a center in Utah at all. And I was going to go to Vegas to try floating because I just really felt like I had to. Mm-hmm. And I ended up being like, screw spending the money on that. I'm going to build one. And I'm fairly handy, so I thought I could build one out of a fertilizer tank. That's what I bought. And I chopped it in half, moved it in my basement, documented everything. I hinged that big fertilizer tank, and I put aquarium plumbing with heating, insulated it like a house, and it worked, dude.
Did it work?
Yeah, and I put everything, every receipt, every plan online, and people started building them.
That's really ambitious. Like for me, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'd look at that and think, yeah, I'm going to build one of these.
I don't know why I did, but I fell in love with the idea of floating before I had floated.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was totally, I don't know the word, but it engulfed me. I was overtaken by.
You were down for the concept even before you did it.
Seriously, I knew it was for me because meditation was doing so much for me at the time. So I figured, what's the worst that could happen on a thing that will make meditation way easier?
Well, I'm trying to think what's the worst thing that could happen if you build a tank inside your house and then fill it up with like hundreds of gallons of water.
It was in the basement, so
Yeah.
It couldn't have gone too wrong. I did have leaks.
Did you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I imagine. I'm sure that's like a huge trial and error thing.
There is a learning curve on that crap, and the way you get the threading and the joints. And I ended up, I just learned a lot. But yeah, leaks. I demolished a room in our house.
How long did it last? Like how long were you floating in that one?
I floated in that one for, I bet 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like the float tent is a couple years old on Kickstarter, but we tested for a year. So yeah, it's probably like probably 3 years.
So tell everybody about ZenFloat.
Yeah.
And the float tent.
So ZenFloat. So I was putting out all this content for isolation tank plans online, and I was helping people build them and doing the videos, and it was just a big DIY thing. And a guy reached out to me named William Hill, and he was asking me just simple questions about the design and the float and the salt and just kind of going through stuff. We kind of became friendly, and I don't know why he chose me. I guess you could say I felt like I was just chosen by William, but he's like, dude, what do you think about making one out of canvas? Because he knew I was trying to affordably float.
Uh-huh.
And when he said that, I was like, if you can do that, that's the answer to make these things affordable.
How much did your first one make? Or how much did it kind of cost you in parts and everything?
It's about, so as far as what we were selling it, it's about the same price.
That thing that you originally made with the fertilizer tank and everything?
Oh, I'm with you. The fertilizer tank, that thing was about $3,000, about $2,500.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the float tent, the fact that something could be cheaper and shippable was huge. I fell in love the second he said that, and then we just went into prototyping and designing. I've had like four float tents in my house at once through design and prototyping and
trial
testing.
and error, different
Seriously.
stuff.
My wife ended up just hating them. They were everywhere. And there's a story. I had one upstairs, and before we were on Kickstarter, we had our first weld break on the tent.
Uh-huh.
Before we learned how to test them with lighting. And anyway, I went upstairs to go floating. I was already upstairs, and I walk in, and the carpet was wet. And I'm looking around. I lift up the side, and there is like a matchstick leak, like shooting out like maybe like 8 inches. And my wife didn't want it upstairs in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's welded. It's never gonna leak. And then I was like, honey, and called her in, and I asked her to hold her finger on the pinhole. And I went to AutoZone to get radiator repair. She was pissed. But what ended up happening is we got new carpet. And then, yeah.
So you
And
got to pick out the carpet.
what if we never would have had that leak? We would have sent out we would have sent out the product with not knowing that you could light test and pressure test. And
For sure.
so it was a blessing, but it sucked.
Yeah, there's reason behind all that stuff for sure.
It didn't make sense at the time. I was just like, oh my God.
So who's your partner in it? You said his name?
2 partners. Yeah, his name's William Hill, and then my brother is a partner. We need some serious help in the beginning, and so my brother hopped in, and it's been awesome. We've all contributed a ton, paid our dues, and we are here. I feel like we're through it now, and we're
Kind of stabilized, and now we're on that point where...
It took a while to get. We're on version 1.5 now, and it took a while to get there, but we got the hang of it. So.
And when did you guys do your Kickstarter? Was it 2014 or 2012? I was trying to remember.
It was 14, and it was, I believe we funded, I think it was March or April. Anyways, just over 2 years.
Yeah.
But that was an epic time for me.
Was that really, like, tell me about that whole experience? Because
yeah,
I think anybody that gets on Kickstarter initially is like, well, this is a good idea, and we've got some support, and it seems kind of cool, but we're just going to take a leap.
Dude, that's exactly it. And the feeling was, even the night before we launched, the feeling was like, I remember talking with my brother, it's like, are we going to do 10,000 or are we going to be able to do 100? We were going for 100. I think 90 actually, to be specific, but no idea. We had a lot of people who were like, yeah, I'll buy one. We had maybe 6-10 people that were just going to buy one. So we figured we'd do that much. But we didn't know if we were going to hit our goal. And that morning, I was the one who clicked launch, and I clicked it on Kickstarter, and I refreshed in 5 seconds, and there was a sale. And I refreshed in like a minute, and there was a couple. 5 minutes, there was like 5 sales in 5 minutes, and then it didn't stop.
That's nuts.
Yeah, we did 45,000 our first day. We crossed 100,000 our first week.
That's way cool.
It was crazy because it was like the idea and what I was pushing for. Even when I was building tanks, I was trying to make affordable tanks, and so it was like there was people out in the world that felt like me. So it was just really cool.
That is way cool.
Yeah. So it was like a big roundabout.
What was the end result from Kickstarter? What
Yeah.
did it give you guys?
We did 296.
Nice.
296,000. So just shy of 3. I think we were the 4th biggest in Utah ever. It was epic. What was funny though is that's when the work started. It was all fun and games until we had the money and we had to go make it happen.
Now you guys are based out of Salt Lake City?
Yeah, we just got an office. We're just off of 7,200. Well, it wouldn't matter to anyone listening.
There's people in Salt Lake. We got a huge listener base in Salt Lake.
Oh, perfect. So we're 7,200 South I-15, and we're just right there, pretty much walkable from there. But it's handy. The office makes it feel so much more real. Like we're in the office constantly, and we were a virtual company for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
So the office is really it's more than it was always real, but now there's some momentum, like seeing each other and like pushing it, and it's cool.
Yeah.
It's a big moment for us.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned, I heard it with my intuitive hearing.
Yeah.
You were totally into meditating before you found floating.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about that because it's the Energy is Love podcast.
Perfect. Now, I don't know how far you want me to go back, because the reason I got to meditating and fell in love was because of a horrible anxiety and panic kind of mental disorder.
Well, if you're comfortable talking about it, let's talk about it.
More than comfortable. I like sharing my story because at one time it was just scary to share my story. I felt vulnerable. I felt weak. Like, oh, you see a counselor and you've had a breakdown. But now, every time I tell it, people reach out and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you shared that. I've had this.
Yeah.
And so it's like it fosters other people.
For sure.
So now it's like I just want to tell the story. But it's been a while. I'm 33 now, so it was when I was just about 2021. I ran off to LA. I was living and working in Salt Lake, of course. I'm from here. And stuff was just pressure cooking between like my job. I was doing construction and messing around with just a handful of random drugs. Not that I'm not a drugs are bad type guy, because they can be used for great things. But I was living rough between like drinking, party, and that sort of thing. And I ended up, the problems kind of got enough of me where I was like, I'm going to LA. I found a school because I was producing like beats and stuff in my spare time. And I found a school that taught audio recording. It was called the Los Angeles Recording School. And I just decided to go for it. And I went out there. And my problems followed me, believe it or not.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And when I got out there, I had this mentality of what a man was, and I don't know where I got this, but to be tough and strong, you don't need help, and you don't reach out, and you don't be vulnerable, and you don't be emotional. It was really weird. I really believed that. And I got out there, and I didn't ask for help. I didn't call friends, family, hardly. I didn't reach out. I didn't say, I'm having a really rough time. I miss home. I'm weak. I'm just crying.
Was it the first time that you'd ever like, done that?
I mean,
I like 21, 22, you said? Or?
Yeah, I was probably 20. And I'd lived on my own, but something about being in a different state far away kind of freaked me out. I remember I had a lot of dreams about being circled. I was out in the ocean, like with moonlight, no land in sight, floating in the ocean, and sharks would surface around me. And I dreamt that like maybe 5-6 times. Anyway, just interesting. My body must have been feeling like that, like something's going to go wrong.
Dude, you're the perfect person for this podcast.
Oh, thanks.
Because we're all like crazy hippie weird shit when it comes to dreams and energy, and your body's totally telling you something with that
Totally
dream.
telling you. It's like, can I tell you my theory on dreams?
For sure.
And it's probably, I don't know if it's your theory, but my theory is like your brain is just interpreting a feeling and painting the picture of whatever that feeling is.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Absolutely beautiful.
So I'm in LA with sharks circling me.
Literally and metaphorically.
Yeah. And I had weird stuff. It's like I had these spikes of things go well. I got an internship with the Goo Goo Dolls, and I thought I was like, oh, I made it. You know, an internship. I'll just work for them and nail it. And next thing you know, the studio flooded, and Resnick took the studio to his house. And I was like, I'll go with you. I'm working for free. Surely I can go with you. And he's like, no, I don't need you. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was the first let down. And then I had a roommate thing go really bad with the school and like guns and gangs and stuff. And that freaked me out. And so all these things kept pressure cooking me. But see, I wasn't aware of myself then. So I didn't know what I was just getting by. I guess I just wasn't self-conscious, self-aware. Mm-hmm. I was pressure cooking. And I didn't realize that I had to drink more and more and more because I was probably coping.
For sure.
So I ended up getting a job at a studio doing sound for movies, and happened to be the boss, and the culture was heavy drinking culture. Mm-hmm. Every day we'd drink a bunch for lunch, then we'd work hard into the night and go drink after work. And we drank and drank and drank, and I wasn't living well, and I was pressure cooking, and trying to think how it... Okay, yeah, I remember. So we ended up having a trade show in Vegas, and I was building all the set and display, getting ready, and we went to Vegas. We drove all night, barely slept. We worked the first day of the conference. We went out and we raged till, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the morning. And next morning, wake up, and I'm feeling totally dead, but just powering through like I always did. And I wasn't aware that my body was getting ready to snap. And that night, went back to dinner, and we were just talking, and I remember feeling like all of a sudden, like my heart and my chest got really tight, and I felt like I was gonna just I felt like I couldn't breathe, but I also felt like mentally like I was gonna collapse.
Things were getting tighter and closer.
Things were getting rough, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the room, simmer down. I went up to the room, and I remember laying there in bed and trying to calm myself down. I didn't know what was going on, but my body was gonna clock out here in a sec. And I got to tell you a quick little story. Is the time good?
For sure.
Cool. So the quick little story is I grew up, my uncle had schizophrenia all growing up, but he got it when it took it onset when he was 18, and it apparently it collapsed his life. He went from doing great to totally in a mental ward and medicated. So I grew up and I watched him and I heard the stories, and I believe there was subconsciously or consciously, there was a bit of me that believed I could go crazy.
I was going to say, did you always kind of carry that in the back of your head? That
I did.
I may have this thing that's just a ticking time bomb waiting to pop up.
It was such a sad thing. And then everyone says how my family's like, it's such a surprise. And I'm like, well, what if that's me, you know? And that night in that hotel room, that was me.
That's what was running through your head.
My only conclusion was, it's here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what's funny is when I thought, am I crazy? I'm like, no. And that's the first time I actually started talking back to myself in my mind, which is also weird. And that also scared me.
Oh, shit, it's kicking in. What am I going to do?
And then it would like trigger adrenaline, and that would flip through my body. And then something's really wrong because what's happening? And then that escalates the thoughts, and that escalates the body. And I lost it. And I remember feeling like, do I call 911? That's embarrassing. What do I do? Trying to breathe, and I end up just getting in the bathtub. I just turned on warm bath, hurried and got in and laid my ears underwater. Laid there in the bath, and it worked. It brought the levels down enough, and I remember being like, that was freaky. Well, that's gone. I'm glad that's gone.
I'm glad that passed.
Yeah.
Were you on anything at the time? That's what I was thinking as I'm sitting here listening to you.
No. It's
other than
just lots of booze.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was probably pretty wicked, hangover and withdrawals on that too. But I went to bed pretty exhausted and woke up. I was like, good, it's not there. I don't think. Is it here? It's here. It's here. And then boom, right back in the cycle. And then I'm just like, okay, just keep it together through the rest of the day to get home, back to LA. And I get back to LA, and At the time, my girlfriend was there, and I was like, keep it together. And no, it's like I was always, I don't know if you're familiar with anxiety, panic, if you've been through. Okay, so it's I just keep it together for now, to the next moment. You could just keep yourself to the next moment. The girlfriend, I got back, and she was living with me in LA, and she took off, and I was spiraling. I was holding it together every day. I ended up reaching out. There was a billboard in LA for Scientology, and it was like kind of save yourself type thing. But I remember being like, okay, yeah, I need something. And I went to the Scientology church, and they had a barbecue thing going, and everyone was really nice and friendly. But I remember feeling like I was, like they were totally disconnected. I don't know if it was them or me or whatever, but I felt like not my people type feeling. Made me uncomfortable. And then they took me in for a video, which was like, you're gonna burn in hell or you're gonna join us type thing. I swear, I'm not making that up. It was a freaky video designed for like hillbillies or something. I don't know what it was, but that freaked me out. Barbecue freaked me out. And then I'm holding on these rods. I don't know what the machine is. I'm holding on these rods, and they're taking me through all my memories and childhood memories and scarring and damaging and emotional, and they're apparently reading me. So I'm holding these rods in LA in a room from lunch till I went through a memory so many times with the guidance of this guy, and then I finally opened my eyes and it's dark. So it must have been quite a while, I think. 8 or 9, I don't know.
See, I watched their documentary that was recently, really, I don't remember the name of the documentary. Came out on
By them?
HBO. It wasn't by them.
Oh, about
but it was
them.
a really good kind of
I would like to see
look
that.
into the church. And
I would like to see that.
I mean, what's the guy's...
Hubbard.
Yeah.
So he was a science fiction writer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting documentary.
Which, come on, I mean, I'm not saying things are true or false, but what I am saying is what a perfect person to create something.
No shit, right?
Yeah.
And he was not just a science fiction writer, but he wrote a ton of stuff. Like he had all of these novels released, and then suddenly one day he's like, well, I'm going to write Dianetics.
There you
I'm going
go.
to come out with this.
So
and nobody was like,
That's weird.
let's think on this one for a minute. But
That's weird. I guess you've seen the South Park on it too.
yeah. That's crazy that you went and did that, though.
Yeah.
And was it, I mean, after that whole process of sitting there in that room forever, and was it eventually just like, yeah, this is nuts?
So surprisingly, it exhausted me. And when I opened my eyes, it was dark, but I didn't feel anxious. I felt totally blank. I felt like I had just ran my motor, and it, like, I ran it out for the night.
Yeah.
I got home, and I remember, like, ate something, was going to bed, and I'm like, maybe that was it. Maybe I fixed it. Woke up at like 4 something. You know, and the first sign of consciousness, I start thinking, is it back? And boom, it's back. But it was worse because I was in a weird church and I was holding metal rods and watching videos. And
They poisoned me with the barbecue.
dude, I went to I had a roommate at the time, and I was trying to just calm down, and he was going to the beach. And so I went with him to the beach, and I was losing it really, really well. And at the beach, I remember the first time my vision tremored. I opened up my eyes, and the beach was like, like shaking in my vision, not like a little flutter, like an actual.
Yeah.
It was, and it freaked me out. We got back to the house, and I got in the car. I was driving, and I called my mom, and she answered, and I just broke in a great way, and I just poured everything. I can't. This is what happened. I'm going crazy.
How old are you at this point?
33. Oh no, then.
Yeah.
Must have been 21.
So all this just taking place really close after you initially go out to LA?
Yeah, I would say within a year or year and a half, I would
Yeah.
guess. And I remember when I wrote the book, I pinned down the dates, which was really cool for me because now it's like I have a reference, so I could refer back. But I feel like it was 21.
When you wrote the book?
No. So right now I'm foggy on dates.
Okay.
But when I wrote the book, I actually had to find the dates. And
What
I was
book?
So the Float Tank Cure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I brought some copies if you want.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
I
so-
didn't know that you'd written a book.
Yeah, I'll give you some copies.
Well, we got more shit to talk about.
Cool.
But you call your mom, you tell her I'm breaking down. This is what's going on.
Lost it, crying. She says, "Get on a plane. You're fine. Just get home." So I get home, and it was everything I had to stay okay on the plane. Seriously, because when you're in a bad anxiety, panic state, anything can mess you up.
For sure.
Got home, went to my grandparents, and I'm laying on their couch because I think I have schizophrenia. I'm crazy. They're telling me I don't. I'm crying. We had a doctor appointment, and we go to the doctor, and my doctor's like, "You're not crazy. Here's a prescription. You need to go see a counselor. This will help you get to the counselor. This will help you, make it to the counseling session." And it was Xanax, and we filled it, and I took one, And riding in the car with my mom, I remember it was like turned it off. We're not talking a permanent fix, but we're talking it turned the levels down. And I remembered who I was, and I had a glimpse of hope that I was normal.
Yeah.
And then with medicating, and I got on an antidepressant that took all my levels down. And I ended up going like crazy on counseling. I ended up leaving LA shortly after. Couldn't hang there. I went up to live with family in San Francisco. I was seeing 2 counselors, so 2 sessions a week, and I still see a counselor to this day. And
I'm a huge proponent.
what's
like
wrong
for
with
me,
counseling?
when it comes to going to counseling or therapy or something like that, for some reason back in the day we jacked it up in society, and now it has the stigma attached to
Why?
it. In my mind, I think it should be the equivalent of how we kind of treat the dentist, where you go and you have your 6-month checkup and you pop in and you sit down with the counselor and everything's fine, and then you don't come back for 6 months. Or,
I like that.
you know, you're kind of in a spot or something's going on, you just got fired, you're having relationship issues. So then you got a couple follow-up appointments with that counselor and you're good until your next checkup. But that's in my mind how it should work.
Oh, it totally should.
And it's so asinine that, you know.
I used to be really embarrassed of saying,
Yeah.
I see a counselor. Now I'm like, how could you not?
I think everybody would benefit
At
from
least
that.
check up like you're saying.
Mhm.
And honestly, if I said, hey, I have a personal trainer, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. You must be really into health and fitness. And you're like, I have a counselor. And they're like, oh, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Certain people.
I think, you know, even in the back of people's minds, because even I've been to counseling. I'm a huge proponent of it. I don't think there's absolutely anything wrong with it. I think it's always beneficial. But then I still have that damn thing in the back of my mind, even sometimes, that pops up and you're just like, well, that guy's fucking nuts. You know, it's just one of those things that I think is programmed into society and kind of into our mind frame and our point of view that it's really, really hard to get past.
Yeah.
But kudos to you. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. I remember riding with my uncle in the car. We had the same counselor, and we were going to a session, or I was going to drop him off or something. I can't remember. But we saw someone in the car next to us, and we rolled down the window, and he's like, hey, what's up? And it's like, where are you going? And my uncle's like, going to the shrink. And I remember feeling in that moment like, oh, you told him you're going to this. Like, you can't do that. It's so embarrassing. And now it's like I would tell anyone.
Yeah.
But so that's a big change. But I remember feeling like, oh, you told him that? That's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's good stuff.
It is great stuff.
So
I don't know why everyone at least doesn't check up like you're saying.
yeah. Wouldn't that make sense? Like if we had some sort of, rather than the way that because now to try to go see a counselor, unless you have money or unless you're kind of somewhat, and when I say well off,
It's expensive.
it is expensive.
It's about
and it's
$100 a pop.
not easy. Do you know what I mean? It should be as easy as a dentist.
Yeah.
It comes on regular insurance, plans and things like that. So like you have.
Why wouldn't it?
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, not to mention mental health leads into all the physical health
For
because you go
sure.
out and abuse yourself or medicate or eat or
Yeah, it's all connected. But if imagine that where, you could pay an extra $9 into your insurance policy for your whatever business or corporation or company you work for, and now you have mental health insurance. And with that, you get everybody in the family gets 2 checkups a year. And then afterwards, and those are free checkups, just like when you go to the dentist.
I would really believe in that.
And then if you have issues, you come back for 2-3 weeks, a month's worth of follow-up appointments, and then you're paying the copay. So $30-$40 or whatever it is.
I think you're honest.
Cost effective.
If I had to bet on something that would change society, that would make a big
It'd be a
shift.
huge thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the issues that you see, and I mean, we could go off on huge tangents here in regards to mental health and the effects that it has on society and on this nation and on this planet and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I think the more we can do to get rid of that stigma and get people past the concept and the idea that there's absolutely anything wrong with you if you have to go to counseling, it should just be a regular, routine human checkup.
Dude, we're killing the stigma right now.
There you go.
We're in the process.
We've been to counseling. Go.
Yeah. There's no way you could be weirder than me, I promise.
We've had some weird people on the
Oh,
podcast.
okay. Well, maybe I should meet them.
So that's nuts. I
Yeah.
mean, eventually were you kind of diagnosed with anything, or was it more or less just helping you understand the anxiety and the stress and how it was affecting you physically?
I guess I could have been diagnosed with anxiety or panic disorder. Definitely some OCD thoughts on so there's OCD washing, but there's OCD thoughts that you think the same thing that bothers you, and it's a cycle. It's like you're stuck in a gear. I try and not think too much of the diagnosis, but that's how I wound up. A counselor in Salt Lake was the one who's like, try a guided meditation. I'm like, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I don't need that. And he's like, no, just try just listening to someone walk you through a meditation. Like, and I did it, and it was big. And then I kept meditating, and I was doing it nightly, big.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was looking, like, even meditating, sometimes it's hard to get comfortable, or there's sounds or distractions. I was looking for an easier way to meditate, to link it all together. And I stumbled onto that Joe Rogan video with the animation.
Yeah.
Fell in love. I know something about the idea, and that started the
journey down
yeah.
into the tank.
Yeah, that's how I got here.
We always tell people to, like, if you're going to introduce meditation to somebody or they're going to start trying it, guided meditation is definitely a way to go.
Ticket. I don't think a person
so much easier.
Yeah, unless it's the right mind frame type person.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to get the benefits struggling to try and meditate.
Yeah, I hate guided meditations.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm still okay with them.
See, I can't deal, and they drive me nuts. I don't care if
have you ever
it's
had
even.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say, have you ever had a bad voice one?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is
wanna
like I
punch
can
'em.
never find anybody that I listen to, and I'm like, oh, that's so soothing. It's always
Karen
like this
Leonard.
guy's Karen Leonard.
Yeah, but if you don't like him, you probably don't like him.
Yeah, I've tried.
But she's got a really soothing voice. She's like, and I've listened to a lot, and they
Mm-hmm.
annoy me. A lot of them do. I'm like, oh, quit talking.
Yeah.
Or they try to, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not real. Or, yeah.
I know they're taking you down. You always feel like they're doing something. I mean, it's creepy.
Yeah,
It's like
it
if they're
feels
there in
like-
person, they're slowly coming
Yeah.
up behind you and massaging your
Yeah,
back.
I don't
Everything's
like that.
okay. Just relax. Close your eyes. I promise I'm not
won't
going to do
touch you.
anything.
This Karen Leonard, her voice, just for some reason, for me, it feels like just like warm love butter pouring over me.
So what were some of the biggest effects you had from meditation that you initially saw?
You know, for me, it was just I noticed my life got smoother. But like, for example, I would be at work and something stressful would happen that would normally put me into like this panicky, hyper state.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, when I was meditating regularly, my levels would stay pretty low. I wouldn't react quite as high, and my heart wouldn't race up as much. It was like I was familiar with being very, very calm, and
Yeah.
there was no reason to lose at least a decent measure of calmness. But that, it started to take hold. Like, the habit started to make all of life smoother. And then when I started floating, I started becoming like a calm warrior. It was weird. Like, nothing could push me past.
Yeah.
It was a nice feeling coming from a state of, I was a panic anxiety freak. So the fact that I could all of a sudden weather all these stress storms was cool.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
That's that's a great story, and that's a real good example of what meditation actually does. Because people all the time are like, I struggled doing it first off. The majority of the time I sit in there and I don't even know what the hell I'm doing, and it feels like what's the benefit? I'm not really getting any benefit.
And they're thinking.
And it's more stressful because now I feel like
a failure.
I'm a piece of shit because I'm not meditating, and I'm supposed to be meditating, and it's just that whole big spin and cycle. But that's the thing is the differences are a lot of times really subtle.
Yeah.
And kind of just, and until you have a bunch of them together over a period of time where you can kind of look, holy cow, like I just moved through life so differently now.
Dude, it's like, well, I'm witnessing it with this last float here at your place, but it reminds me of like a gym habit. Like, you could go to the gym and battle it out one time, and you might feel a little different. But say you got in a gym habit or an exercise habit, let's say, not the gym, just an exercise habit. All of a sudden, you're gonna notice your chemicals are a little better, your energy levels are a little better, your vitality, and life's a little brighter when you're exercising, using your body. And I bet it's the same.
It's totally
it feels
the same. That's how we actually describe it to people. When I say we, it's me and my wife. And,
Okay.
But it's me and the guy in my head. That's how we describe it to people all the time.
Me and myself.
But it is like that exercise where, you got to get off the couch and go for a walk before you can get up and run a marathon. Yeah. And it's the same thing with meditation. You just have to stay in the practice of it. And then in the practice of it, you get to that like hump where you kind of cross over and it's easier. You can get to that place quicker. And then you start to see some of the benefits, and it will affect physical health, mental health, your relationships, kind of the way you just move through life changes.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good way to explain it. And I got out of the habit. Do you care if I?
For sure.
All right, cool. So we just got a house a couple months ago. Zen got a new office, and I got no float room in my house, so I don't have a float tent set up. And then we're setting float tents up in the new office, but I haven't floated. It's been a couple months, the longest since floating. And I get here to your float center, and I'm like, yeah, put me in for a 90. I'm clocking out. I am leaving, you know. I'm forgetting
I'm
time.
excited.
Yeah, and I was really jazzed. And I get in, and everything I tell people about the expectations, I was just ignoring. I expected to have a great out of there float, you know.
Yeah.
Really clock out. And I fought it. I got in, and I count backwards from 100. I watched and listened to my breaths. I listened to my heart, and I couldn't get out. I couldn't just turn off the thoughts. And finally, I was like, "You're expecting, like you're wanting and pushing this in a direction."
So like back before the, you know, your 2-month sabbatical from floating, but like when you're regularly meditating and stuff, can you just go there and get into it?
Yeah, way easier.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I thought I kind of maybe like someone who was really, really, really healthy or gone to the gym a lot, like, oh, I'm not going to lose this.
Yeah.
And you hop back on a treadmill and you're like, whoa, I lost some of it. But it felt like that. I was like, oh man,
You just get in there and you can turn it off.
Yeah, so I just let it go. I was like, dude, get ready. I always tell people, don't have expectations, you'll ruin it. And I'm in there with these heavy expectations. So I was like, let it go, just think. And I started thinking, and I went, oh my God, it was like this giant workshop of everything. And I thought about business and ideas. And then I went into my wife, and then I got life, and I got sad for a second. I got happy. And then I got out, and I felt like definitely calm. You know, a few shifts, a few speeds lower, but weird. I needed to think through that junk.
Yeah.
Like if I could float now or tomorrow
Or when you float next.
yeah, when I float next, I'm sure it'd be a lot less to think about.
See, that's one of the things about floating. And we can get lost now on talking about floating, I'm sure. But, I mean, it really gives you the opportunity. It is always a good idea, especially if it's your first float, but even any float, to go in there with absolutely no expectation.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, a lot of times I suck, and I fell at it because I do go in there with an expectation, even though I floated a ton.
Yeah.
But for me, if there's any expectation that I go in there, I always tell myself, well, at least there's some aspect of just being in the water, physically speaking, I'm going to benefit from.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, I'm going to come out and I'm going to have absorbed some of that magnesium, and my back's going to feel a little bit better. And so, because a lot of times I get in there and I do the same thing, man, and I meditate. Well, I say I meditate all the time. I'm pretty consistent when it comes to meditation. We've incorporated it into our life, and we do a pretty damn good job about it because we're huge proponents, and we see the benefits. You know, I tell everybody, when I say tell everybody, I mean, the reality is I meditate every day. But I had to stretch my mind outside of the concept and idea of what meditation really is. And so when I first started, I got wrapped up in thinking that I had to sit in that specific position. I had to be completely quiet. I had to go to that place, and, you know, it had to be for an extended period of time. And I could do that, and I got good at that. But then I started to realize what the sensation and the feeling was when I was in that space, mostly my consciousness and what it felt like in that space. And then I realized, wait a minute, I have that same feeling, or I go to that same place in a variety of different ways and at a variety of different times. And sometimes it's for, 2 minutes. Sometimes it's for 5 minutes. Sometimes it's for 3 hours. And so then once I kind of hit that part, I'm like, well, shit, that means I can meditate in the shower before I get out. Yeah. So every day when I shower, before I'm all done and everything, I'm ready to hop out, I'll take it's usually about 2-3 minutes, but sometimes it's longer. And I'll just meditate in the shower. And I kind of use the flow of the water and everything like that to kind of help get to that place. And so I've incorporated and worked it into everyday life.
That would make it a way to keep a habit.
Yeah. So it keeps me in the practice of it. And then usually probably like maybe 3 or 4 times a week, I get to do the really heavy, good, deep shit that I like.
Yeah, like the extended.
Yeah, whether
deeper.
It's in the float or, we'll just sit, at home and meditate or things like that, where we go into those places that you go way far out there. But
it's the opposite of what you feel like when you're out running around.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh God, there's always somewhere to be.
Yeah, and it's helped immensely. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can't, but I'll get in the tank and I'll run through my damn to-do list, and it drives me nuts.
Brains are crazy.
They are
you get
crazy.
That hamster running too fast. And it's hard to slow down.
And just as soon as you think you have it mastered and figured out, and you're like, shit, I'm a professional meditator now. And then nope.
It's like saying I'm professionally healthy.
Uh-huh.
But I don't go to the gym, and I'm not healthy anymore.
Well, then I gotta go smoke real fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh fuck, I'm trying to think. Oh, tell me about your book. Shit.
Yeah. So the reason the book got written. Is that the word? The reason it got written is because I would have people come up to me all the time, ask me about floating, and I'd first try and pick out what type they were. Like, are they in it for maybe they're in it for pain relief, anxiety?
Was this after you started Zen Float and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
After Zen Float. So were they in it for anxiety, panic, stress, pain disorders, athletics? I always wanted to give them what they would find the most appealing. And I was like, I wish there was a book I could just give people that would just grab all the main concepts. I'm like, I need to write that book. Why not me? I have a story that I got here. I've met a lot of people, especially through the float tent. We have people using it for all reasons. And I was like, I got to write this. So I just wrote it. And I wove my story through, and then I hit all the major reasons someone would find floating beneficial. And it turned out good. It's a short read. I bet you could read it in 3-4 hours. But if you ever wanted someone to understand all the concepts and how it works and a little bit of history too, quickly, that would be the book.
Yeah. And what's it called again?
The Float Tank Cure.
The Float Tank Cure.
Float Tank
That's
Cure.
awesome.
Yeah.
When did you write it?
Hell, I feel like it launched it launched for the Float Conference last year. They were in all the bags. So it's July last year. So it's a year old. What's crazy is I've had emails, people dramatically changing their life because of a book I wrote. And it's really weird for me because it doesn't feel like, oh, I went out and I'm special. I do all these things. I just, I worked through some panic and anxiety, found my way to meditation. Everything's just been very natural. Nothing's special.
Yeah.
But people writing it, sharing it have been floored by it. A handful of people. And that was weird for me and cool.
That's way cool.
Yeah. And so it's it's neat, but it's also a little weird, but I'm happy it helps people like that.
Yeah.
I've also had people reach out that are full on I am going mentally insane. What do I do? And I'm always like, dude, go to a counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm just a guy that floats, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm glad it triggered some people to get into somewhere. But yeah, all
That's
sorts of
nuts.
stuff. Yeah. Way nuts.
That's way cool though.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here trying to think because I don't know why I didn't know that about you. I try when I have people on the show, I try to do a little bit of background and investigation and stuff, but then at the same time, I just like to shit. Yeah, I just
this
like
is
to
a cool way
bullshit.
This is a cool way to figure out stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way cool. Tell me more about your guys' company.
Yeah.
You guys got tanks all over the world now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hundreds of tanks out there. We're on version 1.5. We have our own office.
Are you guys constantly trying to test and upgrade, and are you pretty set up where we're going to have this one for the next 2 years till we?
I mean, yeah, this model is going to go on forever. It's our flagship model, but we are constantly testing. In fact, right now we're testing filtration. What we end up doing when we launch on Kickstarter, we send them out with 1-pump systems. Now we're on a 2-pump system. One actually just circulates water, which is a big deal for the surface and the overall cleanliness of the water. But we want to put a big heavy duty filtration system in it. But when you're talking hundreds and you're trying to manufacture, people aren't going to go build a custom pump for hundreds of pieces, right? So you need tens of thousands, and that's not us. So we work with a lot of stock products, or stock products adapted to us. So that's kind of why we're here and what we're doing. But I would imagine as we grow, we'll eventually be able to create a custom
filtration system and everything.
Yeah, designed specifically for our float tent. I mean, we've adapted something that exists to our float tent. Works good, but it's coming.
What are the dimensions of the one?
Yeah, so our float tent is the footprint is 8 foot by 4 foot wide. The footprint, and then about 5.5 feet tall, and it's just a big white pyramid. Yeah, and it has just a push open door. Has some air vents. It has waterbed style heaters, and it's got 2 submersible, aquarium style pumps. But it circulates a lot of water. We really cranked that up. So
that's way cool.
Yeah, it's a great solution for someone who's in float centers just constantly.
Well, anybody that kind of comes to floating and finds floating, I mean, I think it's when it comes to extra things that you do for yourself, it's probably kind of in the middle, because depending on where you live and all that kind of cost of living bullshit, it's kind of expensive, but then at the same time, it's not as expensive as some other things.
Yeah.
So, and then if you look at, well, I'm gonna buy myself a float tank. I'm gonna put a float tank in my house. Yeah, and there's Yeah.
I got stories with that. So there's people who they assume that I'm going to buy a float tent and life's going to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
But they buy a float tent and they don't even assume that you're going to have to take care of it, like a hot tub. And
They
it's
think
not,
they're just going to put it up and be done.
there's people who have put it up and called us months later and been like, the water's funky. And we're like, yeah, it's because you have to maintain it. So we now, when people get a hold of us and they're like, I want to buy one, I've never done this, we're like, don't go to a float center. We tell everyone, go to float centers. Make sure you love it, and then make sure you go to a float center enough where you're like, oh, this now makes sense for me. And in the book I was writing about that, because some people assume like, oh, I got to have a float tent. Well, do you? What are you spending? And can you go to a center? If you're floating, a few times a month, center's perfect. As soon as you cross that line, though, you can have one in your house. But here's another thing. Say you're like, oh, I crossed the line. I'm spending enough where I could get one. Also, it's like the float center experience is very spa-like.
Yeah.
It's soothing, and you don't have to clean or do anything. It sounds like I'm not selling the float tent.
You don't think about the tent, but I'm just telling you.
No, what I am trying to do is be honest. Where we're a very specific person,
and that's cool. I mean,
hardcore
you guys aren't gonna
floater.
go out there and try to fling your tent everywhere.
No, because that actually damages things.
Yeah.
That was a big realization we had too. If you're just out pushing these things, you're going to get them in the wrong hands of people that don't care, and then it's going to make you look worse.
Yeah.
So now we're like trying to be very specific.
That's cool.
So yeah.
I was going to ask you something because something popped into my head. I'm going to sit here with silence now for the next 15 minutes trying to think of what it was.
No problem.
But it was
Float tank cure book, stories changing people,
Yeah,
the
no, I
design,
get it.
the
The
footprint,
design.
the height, the waterbed heaters.
That's what it was. It's
Did I
the
get it?
height. They're a pyramid.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool. So there's a whole thing. I mean, I don't know how, because you can see we're sitting in my studio here at the Crystal Water Float Stop Spa, and we've got this big ass. My wife actually bought me this tapestry. I should take a picture of it and put it up. But
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. But we're like crazy hippie
It's kind of
energy
flowing right
people.
now. It looks a little trippy.
That's probably my foot behind it.
Oh, that's trippy, dude.
But there's something to geometric shapes and the triangle, because it's not just a triangle, it's going to be a pyramid, right?
Yep.
See, that's a good tank to float in.
Want to know a funny story?
Tell me.
And don't tell me why it's a good tank to float in right after this. But William, he was prototyping, and we had originally our first tent was a flat top.
Uh-huh.
We were gonna have to figure out how to like heat it so that it didn't condensate and drip. And he, I forgot what it was, but we were working on design, and something triggered it. And he's like, I had an idea for that, but it looks stupid, so I didn't do it. And he sent us a picture of this bright green pyramid, and me and my brother were like, that's awesome. And he's like, oh, I thought that sucked, so I didn't even show you guys. And we're like, oh my god, if you wouldn't have shown us. And that was it.
That was how you guys
Pyramid's
got the idea
cool
for
looking, and
It
it's
is
very
cool.
functional. No drips. Everything just falls down perfectly.
it. Yeah, it just kind of cycles back into the tank, right?
Yeah, but he didn't initially. He didn't like it. Now he loves it. But so
How
tell
did
me,
he get the idea for it?
do
you remember,
I
or-
guarantee it was function, because we knew that you had to have sloped sloped
Mhm.
walls. We were working in a stainless frame, so you had to kind of work on straight angles. And I bet you, I mean, it's either like an A-frame tent or a pyramid would get rid of the
Yeah.
things. I bet you that's how he got there. I'll have to ask him, but
See, I'm going to cheat here because I'm going to get online real fast. When it comes to pyramids and sacred geometry and all this weird energy
and
related
what's the
stuff.
deal with the Egyptians using?
Yeah, well, that's
So
a whole different podcast. Man.
Yeah,
We
I'll
could go
come
on
back for that
forever.
podcast because I have different theories now about pyramids.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, they're very specific, and because a lot of times it has to do with like threes and things like that. But I have to find this one word, and it's eluding me now, so I'm going to sit here. I wish my wife was here because she would know it.
With that, no. Is it the perfect shape thing?
No,
Okay.
no, it's like the geometric term for.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about.
What is it? Tell me now, damn it.
Oh my god, I know what you're talking about. It's like it's not Pythagorean theorem, but it's like the Tamagotchi. What the hell is that?
No,
No.
I know what that is too.
Okay.
It's like a dodecahedron or
Yeah.
something like that. Oh, I'm gonna be pissed.
Text your wife.
She's working.
Oh, okay.
That sucks. Anyhow. See, I don't even know where to go to look for it. And the shitty thing is I know what it is, and I should know what it is because it's a really big deal we use them a lot in different things and different aspects. And like when you can sit underneath a big, ginormous copper pyramid, it really strengthens and intensifies energy and does different things.
Dude, I'm going to find it. I think I'm right there. Give me just one sec.
This makes great podcasting.
Yeah, this is
right
just
here.
epic listening for your audience. Well,
now I'm trying to spell dodecahedron.
is it the thing that was on the Chinese statues and it all geometrically was perfect?
No,
okay.
Because like everything, so like a pentagon or do you know what I mean? All those things when they go 3-dimensional, and because it's a 3-dimensional.
Not Fibonacci.
No, Fibonacci's is like that super sacred special number. That,
okay, and not fractals.
No.
Okay, I think I'm out of ideas then.
We're gonna get it. Now we're determined.
Heck.
Here we go, 3-dimensional pyramid. Oh fuck! Come on.
Okay, while you're searching,
yeah,
I'm going to explain something totally ridiculous. So anyways, I'm obsessed with like the pyramids and stuff. And the more I watch about the pyramids, the more I feel like, well, are we really capable of it with just manpower? When I hear about some of the block sizes coming from quarries like hundreds of miles away.
They were and stuff.
So I'm at least skeptical. I'm not saying for sure it was it's aliens. I'm not saying that. What I feel like though is the last documentary I watched said that the design inside the pyramid is so basic and so undecorated. These channels and these rooms, and the Nile used to be much higher. And the idea was that they were harnessing a lot of energy from the ebb and flow and the water area in the Nile.
Kind of like water power.
A giant power generator, but they couldn't figure out, well, what did they do with the energy? Where did it go? So that was unclear. But when they're showing the inner designs of a pyramid and these little shafts that are like too small for a person in a specific place, is it really for gazing at a star, or is it possibly for passing energy? Or so that's that's my new kick.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's not bad. Of course, you can go down the ancient aliens kick, but even things like Easter Island are
you ready
crazy.
for this like fucking super
Did you get
disappointing
it?
shit?
Yeah,
because I'm all excited here.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking of is a tetrahedron. See, I'm terrible at pronouncing.
tetrahedron.
Yeah, which essentially is like a 3-dimensional pyramid, but it's got multiple triangles basically. So it's not just one. So that was incredible podcasting radio right there.
Hey, I filled some blanks.
Pyramids are crazy. Like, there's a whole bunch of, I've never heard that theory about the Nile and things like that, but that would make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't answer like the Spanish or the South American ones. But why all pyramids? One of my, like the total, the total, I can't explain it, but there's a piece of me that's just like, well, if you were trying to make something high and you weren't very advanced, you would just build something like a giant mound. They could just drain sand out of their hand and see, well, this is the basic shape if we're going to build high.
For sure.
So there's that part of me that thinks that. But then there's a part of me that's like, why'd they all build pyramids?
Because there's a lot, like, and have you ever seen that stuff where they find like pyramids in, not just like in Egypt or in South America or Central America, but like in China or Russia?
And multi-level ones.
Yeah, but they're all grown over and they, but there's
huge ones that are grown over.
Yeah.
Super enormous. Way bigger than the pyramids.
When I see that stuff, I'm like, there's got to be something to, because there's a whole other like subsection of belief and thought process when it comes to all of that shit and spirituality and things like that. Like it gets really bizarre and trippy, because then there's like, well, this culture was communicating with this culture, and these pyramids are energy centers and they're all lined up, and you can go down those thought processes and those rabbit holes, and some of it you can kind of connect with, and then sometimes you're like, yeah, you guys are just nuts. But when I see those ones that are in those random places, then it's like, well, there's got to be something to the fact that they're always pyramid in shape.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm starting to let go of everything I ever knew and look at it from fresh eyes, try to.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder if there was energy harnessing, or they even talk about, there's something in the Bible, it was that box they built that was just crazy, and it was like you had to adorn special attire with things.
The Ark of Covenants.
There you go.
Yeah.
But from some fresh perspectives, they're like, they might have had some nuclear energy on their hands.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, but I don't. Okay, so did they cover that?
Yeah, it was Indiana
Jones.
I gotta
rewatch
and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what they're finding is the Ark of Covenants.
I haven't seen that movie in so long, and I'm guessing I just missed that as a young.
Probably. I had to go back and watch it,
Okay,
and
I'm
then
gonna
it
go
made
back.
sense.
Dude, have you ever gone back and watched The Matrix?
A couple of times. Well, when I say a couple of times, first off, when The Matrix came out, I think I was like a senior in high school.
Dude, it's better now.
I know it is. But I went and saw that damn thing like 11 times in the theater.
Wasn't
when
it
came out.
awesome?
So good. And yeah, we go back and watch it now, and it's got more meaning
Way more for
to me now than it did when back when I was a kid. It was just like, this is a badass
It was just
movie.
neat. And it was
it's
mind-bending.
cool. And I still
No?
have my trench coat that I bought.
Nice. Boots and the
Yeah.
glasses, Neo.
It was mind bending. But yeah, now it's like,
Now it's kind of possible. I mean, the ideas are easy to harness or to grab.
there's people that think that's what we're living in.
Dude, I don't know, but dreams, I'm the same person in my dreams, the way I react and think and pursue. And it's almost like my waking life is sometimes just very much a dream I'm creating. Like, it's the same thing.
What if this is the dream, and when you're dreaming is when you're really awake?
Dude, who's to say what's like
I
real?
know.
It's just a judgment call.
It's just perception and a belief.
Dude, I really feel like we're going to wake up after life, like when we die,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to go, boom, oh yeah, I remember this. Or like, oh yeah, I chose to do that.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I was just there for training.
That was a vacation.
Yeah. Or, and like, you know how like sometimes, this has been a long time for me, but sometimes you would do drugs and you would, like, just for me, I'm thinking of like shrooms, and time would not really exist. Like, you can't, it's hard to understand time. And things can feel like lifetimes that were very short on hallucinogens and stuff. But what if this seems like a long time in our regular life, but when
And
we
it's
kick
just a
out of it,
blink.
it was just like, oh, we just decided to do that.
Yeah.
And it was all, we were just in the moment. It's
You have
weird.
got to get into like some spirituality energy shit, because you're going to find a lot of like,
I would enjoy, I just need to be pointed in the right direction.
you would, I mean, I think you would enjoy a lot of it, because a lot of it is that the reality is, when we tell people, like, I don't think I'm any different. I'm just a normal guy, right? And I meditate, and I've been sitting here playing with this crystal, this stone, this rock. It's bloodstone. There's weird stuff like that, but really it's just a cool rock that I like, and then you can get really, it can be viewed and perceived a certain way, but the reality is it's just normal stuff like this. And you just have to think of things differently and think outside of the box and really open up yourself to the possibilities of anything. And for me, when that happened, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, the universe is infinite. It's really, really fucking big, like bigger than we can imagine that it is.
Crazy big.
Yeah.
Like the light is just now getting to us.
For sure. So if the universe is that big, if space is that ongoing, well, then there's enough room for anything and everything.
Yeah.
So the craziest thought that I can have may be manifested instantaneously in some other far off place in the universe. And if that's the case, and that's not just for me, that's for you, that's for everybody, that they can do that, well, then that means we got any number of things out there.
Oh, dude. It's kind of freaky when you think about it.
Yeah.
And freaky to think of millions of light years. I can't even think of a light second. That's so fast. And to imagine millions of light years, and the known universe is as fast as the light's reaching us.
You think we're going to go to Mars?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever see that thing? I don't know if it's wrapped up or not, but they had that competition where you could, like,
SpaceX, was that?
I don't remember what it was called, but you fill out your application, and you basically to be the first group of people that go to Mars, and it's basically like that one way trip.
Whoa, yeah, I'm not that guy.
You wouldn't be that guy.
No.
See, I'd still be that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
For humanity or for yourself
Just
or for
fucking
both?
me,
Or?
man.
Whoa.
Like, I feel bad. I love my family. I love my wife. We've had this conversation. It's kind of a shitty conversation. Like, baby, if they're calling me for Mars, I'm going.
Holy shit.
Because it'd be cool as hell.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm afraid it'd be cool as hell, but then as I was getting close to there, I'd be like, wait, I had it all. And I went out for an ego thing. I don't know if it's ego for you.
Yeah,
I'm
for
just
me,
like,
it'd just be cool.
for me, it'd be ego. It'd be like, I'm going to Mars, baby.
Yeah, like, I could care less if people back home are like, dude, that guy went to Mars. No, I just want to go walk there. I just want to go see what's there. I want to go up. I want to go there, and then I want to look up, and I want to see what the stars look like from Mars. My
Oh my
guess
God.
is obviously it's going to look exactly the same.
What's that Matt Damon movie?
Interstellar
That was cool.
or The Martian.
Oh, no. Martian is what I'm
Martian.
thinking. Both were very cool, but Martian, that was well done.
It was good.
Yeah.
Did you like Interstellar?
Loved Interstellar. And that's the one with McConaughey?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what's crazy to
Matt
me.
Damon's still in it. He's got that little bit part.
Oh, yeah. You know what's crazy to me is I was thinking about the script for Interstellar, and someone had to be like, okay, you're going to cross through this chasm and you're going to be touching dimensionally something in your history in a room through piano keys of life and light. And like, I think the script must have looked ridiculous. And then someone made it work, because when I was watching it, I got it.
For sure.
That was, how would you ever make that script equal something on screen?
Yeah. Well, that's Christopher Nolan.
Holy shit. That's the director?
Yeah.
Okay, that was, Jesus.
I think it's him and his brother are they're like the writing duo team partners, and I think they wrote that.
I could feel it when he was like trying to reach out and touch something, and you see
that movie.
Different spectrums.
Yeah. When he finally ends up in that place where it's time and space and everything, and it's all that.
Yeah.
And he's looking and he's seeing his daughter there and all that kind of that. Yeah.
How did they do that? I just can't imagine trying to take that on.
That was a really accurate representation for me in regards to the way that I think of space and time. Because I don't think that time exists. So we have like this linear way of thinking where we have a past and we have a future and we have the present. For me, everything's just instantaneously present. It's just the moment. It's just now. And so that's a good example in that movie where in the beginning he's got that thing when she's a little girl and they kind of have that experience in her bedroom and trying to figure that part out. And then it kind of, you see the different time periods, and then eventually it's him on that backside of the wall or that other space and time communicating and blah, blah, blah. And he put all the pieces together. But for me, if you just look at it from the perspective of Matthew McConaughey's character, everything in that movie happens so much just in the present moment for him. Do you know what I mean? And so the reality is when he's finally at that point where he's on the backside and he's realizing that he's manipulating that situation and communicating with his daughter across space and time, that's just the instantaneous moment for him then now. So then, I mean, it gets so trippy and weird.
Yeah, what a trip.
But it was a really good example for me.
It was well done. Mm-hmm. What a trip.
Did you ever see it was another Christopher Nolan one. It was an earlier one he did. It was Memento.
Mm-mm.
That one's way cool.
Let me write that down.
It's one of those movies that, I mean, it's a head scratcher. It's so bizarre and weird, but it's super good.
I'm not using my phone. I'm just leaving myself a note. Memento?
Yeah.
I'll leave this open just in case.
It's like momentum, but it's just memento.
Memento.
It's MEMENTO, memento. It's a good movie. It's an older one. It's probably like 10, maybe 15 years old, but it was done really, really well. Trinity's in it too.
Oh, cool.
From The Matrix.
Yeah. It's pretty hot.
Yeah. You got to get into energy shit.
Dude.
I should give you.
Just point me in a small direction or a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when you gave this rock.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Australia, my wife when we met, we had 2 months to fall in love, and then she had a job in Australia.
You had 2 months to fall in love.
Yeah.
Somebody watching.
No, but she had committed to a mining. She is an archaeologist, and she had committed to a job in the west side of Australia, as far away around the earth as you can get. And we met. And we were like, do we keep dating? Because you're going across the world. And we're like, yeah, let's just keep dating. And we just
give it a shot.
We fell in love. And then now we're doing long distance west side Australia to Utah.
Is she there now?
No. It was just, that was 3 years ago. But she's here now. And she was there for, I think, 9 months. But I went back to get her. And it took a couple months and we toured Australia to come back.
Uh-huh.
But I was losing it again. Being in Australia, just totally... isolated and away and
threw you again.
Yeah, it started throwing me back in the old anxiety loop. And I went to a crystal store in Australia and I bought like a clear crystal.
Uh-huh.
And it was supposed to soothe me, and I kept it in my pocket. And that night I was laying in bed and I put it on the I put it on the nightstand. And I woke up in the middle of the night to this like this really high pitched like humming. And I was like, oh my God, the crystal's coming to life. Like spirituality is like channeling through this crystal. And I laid there like kind of scared, kind of paranoid, and it was just coming right from there. And I was like, wait, like look around and see if you can figure out something else this could be. And I went out and I opened the door and there was this flagpole, and like the way the cable was rubbing, it's like,
yeah.
But I totally woke up thinking I had bought
a
channeled crystal that was like getting ready to explode into.
You know what I like to think? Because if you think about the way thought and energy and the way that mind works, I think in that moment that's a cool story. But I think in that moment, the crystal was making that noise.
And then I decided.
And
to
and then
make
you
sense.
doubted it and you questioned it and you shifted and altered the noise until you found the flagpole.
Dude, so lately I've been thinking about this concept, like, what if, and this might be child's play for you, but for me it's a what if. I was like, what if all we need to do to make something reality is enough people believe it, that it gets forced into reality. So right now we're forcing the Mars into the ability to land on, and then one day we might force alien contact because enough people are like, yeah, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it. Or I kind of have an alien thing if you haven't noticed. But what if belief is what creates existence?
Well, it's thought, and thought is energy.
Yeah.
And that's what you manifest with. That essentially, so if you think about, have you ever heard of the whole concept when it comes to like manifestation?
Oh, yeah.
There's the Secret that came out a few years ago.
Yeah,
and
and
all
this
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all just, it's energy related in regards to positive thinking as well as negative thinking. And people think that if they're manifesting, then it's always, I'm good at manifesting, or I need to get better at it, or it's something that I want to start trying to do. And you can think and do little fun stuff like you're going to picture the parking spot up front at the store when you get there, and sure shit, there's going to be a parking spot or whatever the case may be. But the reality is we are constantly in that space of manifestation. We just choose to label it good and bad, but the reality is we're always manifesting. So you'll manifest shit and people see that in a literal sense where it's like, somebody that's always bummed out or depressed or stressed, and they're always down and they're always talking negatively about, God, I just can't get over this, or I lost my job. People that stay in that state continually stay there because that's what they're manifesting.
Yeah, like attracts like type thing.
And so it works in both ways. And so that whole concept, just enough thought is creating something. So if enough people think about something, but I think, for me, the reality is you have that ability to create anything with just your own thought. It doesn't have to take a society or 100,000 people to do it. It's just you. You have the power. You have enough to do it.
Cool, man.
And even if you think about it, like, dude, we could get super deep. So like if you think, we'll use Mars, for example, maybe 75 years ago, some guy, I wonder if we could travel to Mars. Not necessarily I want to travel to Mars, but I wonder if I wonder if the human race could travel to Mars. We went to the moon. I wonder if we could go to Mars. Did that guy manifest eventually somebody from the human race landing on Mars? So in your mind, do you think it's a conglomeration of 1,000 people or 2,000, you know what I mean, that finally builds enough energy to make that happen? But what if it's that one guy's thought that eventually was manifested?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's trippy.
It is way trippy. And what if right now we believe the universe is so huge because we believe in light speed?
Yeah.
And so we can't think of anything faster than that. So we're looking for light.
There's totally faster ways to travel.
They're on what's that Tyson DeGrassi show?
Nova or...
no, it was his series. It was well done. It was by the Seth MacFarlane. He was a co-producer. Anyway, it was a big series.
We're doing terrible. Like, we need fucking laptops so we can just Google shit so we sound smart. That Tyson DeGrassi, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it's like Nova. Maybe it is Nova. Maybe I'm just not remembering. Anyway,
I don't think it's Nova, but yeah.
They talk about this thing that travels faster than the speed of light, and something exploded and the light hadn't reached, but they had this giant cavern with water and they saw it pass through before the light passed through. And so they believe there's like dark energy or dark matter. But they believe something travels faster. But this is like we're just scientifically getting there, and I don't know if we're creating it. And yeah, dark matter is another one that
gets way trippy when you start thinking in that way.
It gets trippy when they kind of start to apply, like, maybe science isn't like specifically, maybe science is just linking something our brain can conceive to something like that we can imagine. Yeah. We just have to link those things with some.
I think it's so silly how people get so wrapped up in science, and unless we can, hold it, touch it, taste it, see it, unless we have the ability to test it, like dark matter is a good example, where we can't really. The only reason we think that it exists is because we see precursors or effects in regards to other things, right? Yeah. But it's not like we have a box of dark matter somewhere that they're just holding on to and they're measuring. And so it's, for me, I love science and I love it when it starts to prove things, but I think crazy shit all the time. And in my mind, everything's real.
It is, dude. Well, think about it. They're proving crazy shit as far as anyone 100 years would think of.
Yeah.
So in 100 years, what we're dabbling with, like, is
think
possible.
100 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like at the turn of the last century, we had nothing. You had absolutely nothing, and now look at all that we have in 100 years.
Dude,
and the way technology is continually kind of, it's got that snowball effect.
Oh, dude, it's
and now it's on that downhill
exponential
slide. Yeah.
growth. Yeah, my grandpa talks about how Dick Tracy had a watch when he was a kid in the Dick Tracy movies.
Uh-huh.
And the watch, he would make a phone call.
Uh-huh.
And my grandpa's like, yeah, right, that'll never happen. And now it's like I'm wearing that iWatch or whatever the hell it's
you got
called.
the Dick Tracy watch
and you
on.
can answer phones, and it's not that big of a stretch for anyone to conceive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Did you ever see that? Oh, I'm not going to pronounce it right because I always screwed it up, but it was like Ex Machina or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Oh, that was awesome.
Wasn't that one good?
That one, awesome.
That one for me was just like, dude.
Mind-blowing shit. That was so awesome. And the whole thing was a test to see if the computer could do it.
Yeah, and it was well done too.
Oh, yeah.
It was super trippy.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
That was an awesome movie.
You big movie guy?
Not necessarily. At home, I don't go to movies, but certain movies just, floor me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to be like I said, like when
You
I
were
was in
buff?
high school,
Yeah.
I used to walk around because it was back in the day before cell phones. Well, I think we had flip phones back then, but I'd walk around with the movie section for my favorite theater from the newspaper kind of folded up and in my
You were
back
buff,
pocket.
man.
And then I'd be like sitting in math class. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And I'd look, there's a 3:30 show I can go to. And I'd slough and take off and go see a movie.
Dude, this makes me want to see a movie. Maybe I'll see one tonight.
Yeah.
With the wife.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. Well, the next one I think I want to see is Star Trek. That one's coming out in a few weeks. Those are fun. Those are just fun.
I'm trying to remember what we recently saw. If I remember it wasn't that great. Anyway, I don't want to go on a not that great tangent.
This movie sucked.
Yeah.
Don't go see this.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I do say about movies. Movies are not all of them, of course, but a lot of movies. Like I go and I sit there and they're visually amazing, and there's this heart lack and story lack and character development lack, and I'm like, man, all of our technology is making us lazy for great story and character. And anyway,
That's why I
feel
like
that a lot.
Like Interstellar. That's why I like those kind of movies.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like it's cool if the effects are good, but
the
for
effects
me,
can't make it.
No, The Martian was a good example too, where it wasn't really effect driven necessarily, even though there was a lot in it. But it's just a good story, and you can't go wrong with Matt Damon.
That reminds me of The Rock was in some like earthquake movie, and it was just
San
ridiculous.
Andreas.
Yeah, it was cool to watch some of the devastation, but ultimately you're watching the movie like, what the hell am I
Yeah.
watching right now? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
That's one of those movies where you're like, you get all that you need from the trailer.
Yeah,
and then you're like,
it's pure
that's
effects.
good.
Like I'd
Yeah.
like to watch some of the devastation.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool little clip, but a whole fucking movie, and then it was just terrible.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And that happens to me. I feel like that happens to me all the time.
There's a lot of movies like that. It's hard to come across.
They
really
lean
good
on
ones.
the effects.
What about Inception?
Oh, DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Bomb! I love brain fryers like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! And then the passing through deeper into I go back to it. How do you write that out? Give it to someone, and someone's like, "I got this."
Yeah. This sounds like a great idea.
I can make this happen. That's talent, man.
It is
It's
talent.
not my talent. That's
Because
awesome.
they're trippy.
They are trippy. They're well done. I forgot. I'm gonna rewatch these. For
They're
sure.
good.
Yeah,
Inception's one that we probably watch every 6 months or so. We just go back. All my kids love it.
it's so cool.
Like I watched it for the first time with my 10-year-old the other day, and he's kind of one of those that can't sit still for a while, so he's bouncing around, but whole time he's kind of watching in the back of his mind, and it gets down and he's like, I really liked that movie. That was really cool. I'm like, I know. It's badass.
It is badass.
So, fuck, man, we could probably sit here and talk forever. And I feel like we jeopardized the conversation with playing on our phones, but I don't know, man. What else do you want to talk about? Do you have anything else you want to throw out before we wrap up?
Sure. I'm not plugging, I promise, but I was just editing.
Plug away.
I got a second book, and it had
Where can people find your first book? I'm assuming
Yeah.
they can go anywhere and find
best
it, like
place to find
Amazon.
anything I'm up to is just shanestott.com.
Okay.
I run a family business. I run Zen and write some stuff, but putting out a second book. Are you familiar with? Of course, you're familiar with Stoicism, but like Marcus Aurelius, he journaled, and it's called the Meditations.
Uh-huh.
But I listened to that book over and over and over and over. Something about it just touched me. His like a lot of wisdom in a guy who lived a lifetime and then wrote it down in his journal. But I wanted to rewrite it because all the wording they use is crazy. I say crazy, just ancient Roman verbiage and the way they talk.
difficult.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be an easy project. I'm like, I'll be able to roll through this translation pretty easy.
I'll make that movie.
I started this last year, and I've worked on it every single week since last year, and I finished my part for the most part like a couple months ago. Got an editor. She's doing her like second distillation or revision, and now we're together doing the third, like going through it. And it's almost done. So if anyone likes the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, dude, it's called Meditations Made Simple. And I'm not trying to sell books. I'm just saying if you're into this is going to be a cool one. Because what I did is I made it simple, but then I laid out the text in a really playful way. And then certain things that are really cool, like quotes, I blew them up and illustrated them. So like you can grab this book any day and open to a page and like get some weird random wisdom.
That's way cool.
Yeah. So that sounds like a stupid plug.
When's that one coming out?
I don't know. I bet you. So to date your podcast, is it July 1st?
I think so.
I bet you it comes out August. I'm
Yeah.
almost done. Oh my God, I underestimated how big that'd be. And as I got started, I was like, I'm gonna write this for my son. This is why I'm gonna finish it, and that's what kept me pushing through it because it's been a lot of freaking work.
Yeah, that's cool though.
I'm digging Stoicism, and partly for the reason too, like I forget the exact connection, but I've lost it. But it was partly the fact like I remember what it was. We were talking about good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing in Stoicism is they don't label a lot of good and bad. It just is.
Yeah.
It has different outcomes. So like doing drugs isn't bad. I say drugs, but you're just going to get certain outcomes with the life, the way you use them. Or if you drive really fast, it brings certain outcomes. It's not good or bad,
See, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's exactly
So
the same thing.
Right down
talking
your
about.
spiritual route.
Yeah.
I think Stoicism has a lot of that cool stuff.
You're a super spiritual guy. You just don't realize it.
Really?
And that's the thing, too. I think a lot of times people think that somehow if you're going to embrace something, because you've embraced a lot of this stuff in your life, like meditation, for example, that's kind of a big part of not just where you're at now in your life, but you kind of big believer in it. You've embraced it. It's something that you would kind of, do you have kids?
Yeah, a little 1-year-old boy.
So you're going to teach him about meditation.
For sure.
You're going to help him grow up in life and teach him the process of meditation, right? And so that's huge. And obviously I'm not the first person to draw parallels between meditation and spirituality, obviously. It dates back a little bit longer than me. But that's a huge thing. And then all these other things that you're sitting here talking about and stuff. And I think you're a really good example where I think a lot of times people think if they have to start thinking outside of the box or start thinking about some of these ideas or even just embracing some of
You
them.
have to be a certain way.
Yeah, then you got to be that crazy fucking hippie, or you got to be that person that, quits their job and lives in some sort of communal living place out in the middle of nowhere and has.
Dude, I'm glad you mentioned that because especially a couple of years ago, I remember feeling like I can't be a floater that also will go drink beer and watch a sports game. That's like, you're like violating what it is to be spiritual. And then in the last couple of years, I've been like, wait a second, you're just you. Just let it be whatever it is.
For sure.
I'm not better than sometimes I want to buy something that's totally cheap and stupid that to feel good because I own this thing. Sometimes I say drink beer and watch sports because that's just typical America.
Uh-huh.
But like sometimes I'm any type of person, but ultimately
It's all you.
the core is just, I guess what you're saying is spiritual. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And it's balance. I think it's always balance. That's what
Yeah.
I try to do that because I'll be that super spiritual guy. Like we'll go and do all these different fairs and events and sit down and do readings for people and have sessions. And I absolutely love it. And that's what we do. And it's great. But then I'll go and drink beer or I'll go and sit and, do you know what I mean? Do something completely opposite of it.
Do something totally like the brainless, dumb American stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just all balance. For me, I always try to remind myself. And what I find too, once I bring awareness to balance itself, just that concept and that idea, it helps me a lot to recognize when I'm starting to get out of balance. So then I'll notice those subtle shifts where it's like, okay, life's starting to get a little frustrating and stressful and kind of shitty. It's because I'm a little bit out of balance and I'm leaning more this direction or more that direction. And maybe I'm starting to do this much too much. I mean, the fact is, do I think you can meditate too much? Yeah. It's like anything else. It's in balance, right?
Oh, I know someone who, they're too about that.
Yeah. They go
lost
too
in
far
that.
into that
This is
realm
me.
and into that space.
Like the ego space too.
Mm-hmm.
A book I recently got, Ryan Holiday has Ego is the Enemy.
Uh-huh.
You might snag that. It's pretty cool.
You have me a lot of shit to read.
It's just a focus on not getting caught in your ego, which is really good for me to read right now because there's a piece of me that's like, well, I do have a successful tank company, and I did write a book. I'm kind of special, and I'm listening. I hadn't sold myself, but I'm starting to like play with those ideas of being special. And then I listen to this book. I'm like, put right where I need to be. So anyway, if anyone's listening that feels like they might be special, you might consider reading Ego is the Enemy.
Yeah.
Because it really helps you realize, like, he goes through some stories in history of ego and the gigantic destruction it created of being special. But then he talks how you can still do special work. You can do great work, and you can have a special way of living life, but you're not any better. It's just cool.
Yeah.
He lays it out all really well. He's a good dude. Anyway, so okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
ShaneStott.com, right?
Yeah, ShaneStott.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, man. This has been awesome.
I love it.
It's been
Appreciate
a really
it.
cool conversation, actually.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm sure you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And go out and have a beautiful, wonderful day.
Hell yeah. Boom. Oh, yeah, I remember this. Mind-blowing shit. That was so awesome. Your brain is just interpreting a feeling and painting the picture of whatever that feeling is. Crystals coming to life. Dude, what do you think about making one out of canvas?